What is going on, everybody? My name is Nathan Knox, and I'm your host and founder of your favorite sports talk show, At the Top. And today we're about to break down the NFL Week 15. Now, I do got the business topics and off the field and off the court stuff for y'all, but that's going to come later in the week. Right now, we're just going to break down the NFL Week 15 and honestly, what the playoffs in the next few weeks are going to be looking like around the league. So, let's break down my two favorite games of the week. The first game of the week is the Bills versus the Patriots. That was a barn burner for the AFC East. Crazy battle. We had two, great quarterbacks going at it. Drake May versus Josh Allen. Two great teams. The Bills pulled away after a crazy comeback, 35-31. And let's talk about this. The Bills have came back against multiple good teams this season. So unfortunately for the rest of the league, the Bills, you can never count them out. They were down on the Ravens. I mean, we're talking about way back when to week one. They were down here against the Patriots, and they found a way to stick to their game plan and win the game. Now, honestly, I credit the coaches because the players are going to go out there and they're going to execute for the most part, whether they're down or up and stuff. But for the coaches to believe in a certain play style, hey, listen, we're going to run the ball methodically. We're going to get our first downs, to stick to the script and not say, hey, Josh, throw us on your back and throw for 500 yards. We need you. It's like you knew what would work, and it worked in order to get you guys a lead. So honestly, big ups to the Bills, coaching staff. Josh Allen played amazing. But who did this game say more about? I mean, because on one hand, you have the Bills, who I felt was just a better overall team than the Patriots, but are the Patriots frauds? I think they played the Bills well. They play they played their schedule well, clearly, they have already 10 wins this season, so they're already in double digits. A huge flip of the script from the past 2 to 3 years from the Patriots. So it's you guys are looking at a number one seed potentially if y'all finish out, the season well. But the Bills are right on your tail. You've been beaten before. You have some tests like Baltimore coming up next week. So I really want to see what the Patriots are going to do these last few weeks of the season. And if they, honestly, I don't think they want the bye. If I'm the Patriots, I want to play a first-round playoff game, just to get my QB, keep him hot. We don't want to be sitting and have, a number one seed go down because you had a bye week and your QB came out a little rusty against a very good team. Because in the AFC, all the teams that make the playoffs are going to be solid teams that could possibly make a run. So we'll honestly see about that. But, all in all, to say the Bills and Patriots are battling it out. We'll see who ends up leaving with the AFC East title. But right now, I feel like the Bills are looking good stepping into the playoffs, and honestly, better than the Patriots are right now. And then my other game of the week had to be the Packers versus the Broncos game. That was another, low-key shootout. Things that surprised me. One, great win by the Broncos. First of all, Bo Nix is playing great football. I mean, yes, his defense is carrying. However, you're doing what you need to do as a QB to get wins. And that's all you could ask for. We've heard other teams and stuff like that, where their QBs are getting ridiculed because it's a team win. Bo Nix is a young QB. He's still, getting better each year. But making this jump and playing well enough to where he's making offensive comebacks, late in games, and their defense is playing well. It's now both sides of the ball are rolling, and Denver can make a good run in the AFC as well. I mean, the AFC this year, the AFC players are going to be cinema. The entire AFC players is going to be cinema this year. So make sure y'all tune in. But, I mean, Bo Nix is winning big games. The Broncos defense, however, is not impossible to score against. Yes, they're really, really good. But, I mean, J. Love and the Packers, Jordan Love did not play well during that game either. 2 interceptions, one of his worst games of the year. But they were still able to put up 26 points up against that Broncos D. So, did it transition to a win? No. But for the Packers putting up 26 against the Broncos, like, it shows the league, hey, this Broncos D can be scored on and in bunches. So it's not impossible, but, Bo Nix at the end of the day did what he needed to do on the offensive side to win the game for the Broncos, man. Some other games that we saw that, weren't as enticing, but definitely plays factors for moving forward. Now, the Ravens shut out the Bengals 24-0. What does this mean? The Bengals are now eliminated from playoff contention. Joe Burrow had a nice little run. He was mostly injured this year. Honestly, for the Bengals, I say shut him down and start gearing up for next year. What that means for the Ravens now is that they could potentially still win the division. If you win out, you'll win the division. If you win one of the next two games between Green Bay and New England, which are two big tests for the Ravens, and then you beat the Steelers at home week 18, you also win the division. And if the Steelers just lose out and the Ravens, win two of the next three, then they'll win the division there. So a lot to see, whether it comes down to the AFC North, which has been a mess this year. I mean, the Browns and Bengals are literally, shit shows themselves. And the Steelers and Ravens are like shit shows, but good shit shows, I guess. So, one of those teams is going to end up with that division. Whoever does, hopefully it's the Ravens, makes a little run, but we'll see. Now, the Chargers eliminated the Chiefs from playoff contention as well this weekend. And Patrick Mahomes unfortunately went down with an Achilles tear. I'm sorry, it was an ACL, not Achilles tear. It was an ACL injury, and which puts him out for obviously the rest of this season and probably a good amount of time for next season. What this means for the Chiefs is, honestly, I feel like it's time to retool. You've done enough of riding the back of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. The defense has always been, pretty good, but it's time to use the draft to put in real tools on that offense. Like, I feel like, and not even saying bias, but Patrick Mahomes, guys like, Josh Allen, guys like Lamar Jackson, their teams feel like, hey, we have this superstar MVP QB. So instead of investing in the weapons around him, let's just allocate our resources elsewhere. And it's like, not all the time that turns into wins. Because you see a New England, you see a Denver, you see, a Philadelphia, LA, where it's not just the QB and they're putting valuable pieces on the defensive side of the ball, whether it's special teams, the offensive line, like, investing around your star is going to be important. So I feel like the Chiefs are a team that need to do that in order to extend their dynasty run. But if not, we may be looking at the end of that historic run that Pat and the Chiefs and Andy Reid had. Can they have a resurgence like Tom Brady did? Yes. Will it happen? The world is yet to see. Are the Eagles back? If you check the box scores, the Eagles blew out the Raiders. And if anyone did not know, playing the Raiders, like I heard on ESPN before, is like playing a homecoming game. You have a terrible team that's about to play you at home, and you bring the family out. You tell your friends to pull up. Everybody's out waiting for the game because y'all know you're about to win by 40. And honestly, the Eagles came out and did what they had to do. If they did not do what they had to do, honestly, there was a lot of pressure on the Eagles this game because, one, their QB was under a microscope. Even though Jalen Hurts just won the Super Bowl last year, he's not been playing at a caliber of a Super Bowl MVP quarterback this season. Now, Jalen Hurts is one of the only QBs in the league that could throw for 125 yards, run for 15, and somehow his team gets a win. Not all QBs can do that. Is that a knock on Jalen? Not necessarily. Will the media and NFL experts look and point the finger when they lose? Of course, because if you could win with those numbers when your team's losing, we need guys like you to step up and raise your caliber of play, which sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But for Jalen's sake, the times that he has, honestly, has been at some of the biggest stages of all, like the Super Bowl. So, you could call it inconsistent, but at the end of the day, he has played well in big moments. So you can't really completely knock him there. But you play a terrible Raiders team, you run all over them. How do you respond? This was your get back game, but how do the Eagles respond? Like at this point, Dallas is not in contention. Washington isn't in contention. The Giants are not in contention. You're going to make the playoffs. Focus on how you're going to tool yourselves and make sure you guys are in a good position so that it's not a first round exit. Because honestly, that's what it looks like. Although you got a huge win against the Raiders, they are the Raiders. It's basically like playing a JV team that played up in varsity for a game just to test out how they were. They're not a good football team. So how do you respond? That's what my message is for the Eagles. And I want to know how they're going to respond for week 16, 17, and 18. And are they going to limp into the playoffs or are they going to come in ready to go because they have the weapons to make another Super Bowl run? Sticking in the AFC, though, are the Rams the best team in the NFC? Are the Rams the best team in the NFL? I mean, if you look at the type of team they have right now, they emulate, the Broncos a little bit. They emulate the Patriots a little bit where they have such a solid team that can win you games. And then you look at the quarterback, right? He's not a Bo Nix. He's not Drake May. We're talking about Matt Stafford here, who is established Super Bowl winning, very poised QB. So later in the year, in times like this, when January comes and possibly February, we know Stafford's going to stay cool. We've seen it before. So if the Rams could come away with or even wild card, honestly, I'm taking them on the roads at this point. But if the playoffs go through LA, for sure, guaranteed NFC championship and possible Super Bowl appearance. But if they got to play on the road, I like them against a lot of the NFC teams. I mean, I like them over the Eagles right now. I like them over the Lions right now. I like them over the Bears right now. I like them over San Francisco right now, over Seattle right now. So if the Rams could continue trending upward, I feel like this may be another, deep playoff run for Matt Stafford and the boys. And then just continuing speaking about the playoffs, the playoff picture right now is basically abstract. Who the hell knows what's on? Like, if the playoff picture was an actual painting right now, this second, you couldn't even depict it. It would be paint strokes all over here, messes all over it. Like, there is no clear message right now. Let's just take about the divisional races right now, right? We have the AFC East. The AFC East could still be won by either Buffalo or New England. Now, right now, based on their records, it's like you're either going to be the 1 seed or you're going to drop to the 5 or 6 seed. Like, that's a steep drop, either 1 or 5 or 6. So it's either you're hosting the playoffs or you're playing at least 1 road game, possibly 2. So it's like, that's tough. Then you have to go to the AFC North. You have Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Both right now, well, Baltimore is 7-7. Pittsburgh, depending on how they play Miami, could either be 8-6 or 7-7 as well. Now, Pittsburgh has a head-to-head matchup tiebreaker, but Baltimore could even that out and get the tiebreaker if they win in Week 18. So either one of those teams are going to be in, but the other team will not be making the playoffs because the wild card is not going to be taking a team that does not have 10 wins this year or 9 wins. Now, the AFC South, Indianapolis is falling off a cliff. Houston is playing pretty well, and Jacksonville has been low-key killing it lately. Like, Trevor Lawrence and them boys down south. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago where they were like 8-4, and they came into Baltimore and they're pretty good and got whacked up, and then everybody realized they were frauds. This year, right now, I think they have 9 wins currently. The way Indiana is falling off, if Houston doesn't finish strong, even though Houston is trending upwards, if Jacksonville could sneak in, who knows? Who knows? Shout out Duval. Who knows? Going over to the NFC, right? We have the NFC North, which is a 3-team battle right now. Like, honestly, week 18 is going to be crazy. Week 17 and 18 is going to be crazy in the NFL. The NFL, there's not enough prime time allotted right now. That's enough for all these games that need to be in prime time. Like football for the last 2 weeks of the season, we're basically getting 2 extra weeks of playoff football. That's how close these races are. So I'm honestly really excited for the end of January and February. So let's talk about it. The NFC North, Chicago, Green Bay, and Detroit are all fighting for position. Unfortunately, one of these teams is not going to be in the playoffs. And if you think about it, it's like all 3 teams have played well enough to make the playoffs. So if you're one of these coaching staffs or one of these front offices and your team does not make the playoffs this year, it's tough to look at it as a disappointment because it's like, yo, we played, except Detroit. Detroit definitely underplayed this year. But for Green Bay and Chicago, y'all played well. You have fairly young QBs, like developing. Jordan Love should be kind of developed at this point. But for Caleb, young QB, Chicago don't make it somehow if they fall off a cliff or whatever. It's like, okay, what do we take from this year that we could improve on next year? But, there's 3 spots, and they're all going for one division crown in the North. Unfortunately, 1 or 2 teams may not make it, especially because the NFC West is packed too. So it could really get down to the wire. Now, speaking of the NFC West, they have the LA Rams, Seattle, and San Francisco all trying to get that first place spot. Now, I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC. I think they're going to come out with the division. But after that, you're going to have 2 teams potentially with 11 plus wins. And one is not going to make the playoffs. The NFC's been balling this year. I cannot lie. But you have to think there's 7 spots now. Like, you're going to have your 4 division titles, and then you have your wild card spots. But Seattle, San Francisco, you have to finish strong if you want those wild card spots. Because if you're going to take the spots of Green Bay and Detroit, or Green Bay and Chicago, or Detroit and Chicago, your record's just going to straight up have to be better. So you have to finish the season better because you're not going to win your division if you're one of these teams. We have 6 teams right now, all that could possibly have double-digit wins in 2 divisions, meaning that 2 champions are going to come out of 6 teams. We'll see how that goes. Now, the race in the NFC South is basically just between Tampa Bay and Carolina. One of those teams is going to make the playoffs. The other team is not. Simple as that. So Carolina's looking good. Tampa Bay just took a bad L against Atlanta. So if Carolina could pull this off and be the division winners, they'll have the 4th seed. And then unfortunately for Carolina, they're going to have to host a juggernaut like Green Bay or San Francisco or Chicago, who's probably going to come in and, whoop them. But we'll see, because if you get a home playoff game, anything could happen at home. You never know. I mean, this year, the playoffs are going to be crazy. The NFL offseason should be a little more explosive than past years just because stars want to win. And they're seeing that, this new market. I mean, I know those NFL guys are looking at NBA guys like, damn, those dudes, they have such free will. They could play with each other. They get to play with friends. They get to move this piece, request trades, do this, do that. You don't have the same volatility in the NFL. However, guys are going to want to win. We're going to start to see receivers getting picked up, QBs being moved different places, tight ends, safeties, skill positions being moved from team to team. Like, I feel like the NFL is going to start trending more in that, players market. Right now, it's heavily controlled by owners and teams. The NBA is more of a players market, but I could see the NFL going that way. However, I don't think they're there yet. But this NFL season has been honestly crazy from week 1. The NFL season has been crazy. I cannot wait for what week 18 looks like, and the playoffs this year. Listen, if you could tell me what the playoffs will look like today, consider yourself a genius, because I have no clue, But that concludes this week's episode of At the Top. Appreciate y'all breaking down the NFL Week 15 with me. I will see y'all later this week with some of our business topics and some of the stuff that's happening off the court and field. But till next time, I'll see y'all at the top.